Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this ZEF Colloquium. So this is the first colloquium after the summer break, which makes us even happier to see you back at work. Today we have a presenter from University of Zimbabwe, Professor Edward Mutandwa, who is an associate professor in the Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension at the University of Zimbabwe. He holds a PhD degree in forest economics and policy from Mississippi State University in the USA. And he has over 20 years experience in the academic and development, working spanning countries that include Zimbabwe, Rwanda, and the United States. His research interests are in the areas of agricultural and environmental economics, including ecosystem services valuation, urban forestry, food security and poverty analysis, impacts of climate change on rural livelihoods, urban food systems, and the role of indigenous knowledge systems in the rural society. The paper Edward is going to present now was written within the framework of collaboration between the PARI program at ZEF and the African Economic Research Consortium, AERC. Edward, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Zanetta. And I'm really humbled by your introduction, and I must thank you for that humbling introduction. Yeah, let me go straight to the presentation. As he said, I'm going to be presenting on the social media perspectives from rural households in the context of Zimbabwe. The structure of my presentation is going to be very simple. I'll take you through the background, the research problem, the objectives, the hypothesis. In fact, I think I might have missed the hypothesis, but I'll just speak as I present. There's a theoretical framework, the conceptual framework, the methods, the preliminary findings, as well as the conclusions and recommendations. So that's basically the structure of the presentation. So let me go straight to the introduction. I think the first thing that I would like to indicate is that agriculture is a very important livelihood strategy when you look at it from the sub-Saharan perspective. It is very critical in terms of food security. It is critical in terms of nutrition security. It is a source of jobs. It is a source of exports. And within our context in Zimbabwe, it is contributing around 40% of our national exports. And at the national level, we see about 17% of the GDP being contributed by the agricultural sector. So because of the centrality of agriculture in Zimbabwe, you find that the government has actually focused a lot in terms of the policy. It is a very, very important strategy that they want to use to achieve what we are calling the Vision 2030. And this is just what we are trying to do is to to change Zimbabwe from where it is now to a higher, it's a middle income economy by the year 2030. So agriculture plays a very, very critical role in that regard. So the issue then is the agricultural sector is facing a lot of challenges. As you might know, since the year 2000, we've been facing numerous challenges within that particular sector. Some of them they are really to do with the structural reorganization of agriculture, which is a result of the land reform, but also we have international issues because we are depending on depressed markets, but also you have farm level issues. For example, the kind of farmers that you see now on the farms, they tend to be, they don't have the skills, they don't have the technology, they don't have the money. So there are a range of issues that are affecting agriculture in Zimbabwe. So we in this particular study, what I want to do is to focus on the role of agricultural information in enhancing, productivity. And conventionally, what you see when you look at the agricultural extension system in Zimbabwe, it has basically been, based on the extension workers. You have an extension worker. He's the center of information. He or she offers information to farmers, and then he's more like the central person as far as information dissemination is concerned. But the problem is that because of the limited budgets, it is very difficult to navigate to all the farmers. But also, recently, because of the COVID-19 issue, the COVID-19 pandemic, it has actually taught us some lessons to say it's no longer possible to navigate to farmers. You can't do that. So we have to be looking at alternative ways of still providing information, still interacting with the farmers, but in a way that does not, in a way that minimizes physical interaction. So in this particular case, we are looking at social media, and the way literature conceptualizes social media is that it is a subset of tools that you can use for a diversity of issues. For example, when you're on Facebook, it's mostly a social platform where friends can meet, or perhaps it's YouTube where you are sharing videos, or it's Twitter, you're sharing some information. There could be blogs from experts, there could be websites, there could be vlogs. So let me just give you a global perspective on the use of social media. We know that globally we have about 4.33 billion people who have access to social media, and that is about 55% of the global population. I find that to be very, very fascinating. That more than half of the world population has access to social media. But generally, on average, these people, they spend about 2 hours every single day. They spend about 2 hours on social media, and I found that also to be very fascinating. And in terms of the actual tools that they actually use, mostly the most common one is the Facebook, where you have about 2.7 billion people using Facebook. Then you also have, YouTube. Then you have WhatsApp. You have, Facebook Messenger. You have Instagram. You have TikTok, actually. Then you have a range of other apps that are used, just to do all sorts of things, including access to information. Within our context, in the Zimbabwean context, we actually have about 1.3 million social media users. That's in Zimbabwe. And that's about just under 10%. And most of those people, they access social media using the phone, mobile devices. So really the issue here is that when you look at the studies that have been carried out as far as social media is concerned, most of the studies, they focus on the urban areas. Rarely do you see a focus on the rural areas, which is where we're actually coming from, to say, does social media have any sense? Can social media be used? Can it be useful? Does it have value for the rural areas? So the study objectives, I have 5 study objectives. So basically what we're trying to do here is to look at the types of tools, the type of tools that the farmers are aware of, and the types of tools that they're using specifically to obtain agricultural information. That is, if they're even doing it. Then we look at, given the diversity of the social media tools that we have, what motivates a person, for example, to say, I want to use Facebook? What motivates you to say, I want to use WhatsApp? What are the motivating factors? Then we also look at the cost and the benefits that can be associated with the use of different social media tools. And then we also look at the policy environment to say, does the policy environment encourage or discourage the use of these particular tools? So I'm not going to, give you everything about the literature review, but in a nutshell, what I'll tell you is that we have subdivided our literature review into, several sections, and one of the issues that we explore is what exactly is social media, as a construct. When you look at it, social media versus, for example, ICT, and then we look at the, consumption of social media tools. We look at the factors that influence the use of social media. Then we also develop a conceptual framework. We develop a theoretical framework. But what I want to do here is just to focus on some of the themes that seem to emerge within our context, that is within Zimbabwean context. So you find that some of the studies that have been carried out, they really focus on politics. Some of them, they focus on tertiary universities. And then some of them, they focus on the mass media, the conventional media. So we see that there is a gap in terms of what we could understand as far as social media is concerned in our context in Zimbabwe. Now, this is the theoretical framework that we thought could help us to understand the key research question. The key research question in this particular study is what is motivating people to choose a specific tool over another. So in this particular case, we're using the random utility model, and this is a model or a theory that recognizes two scenarios. So the baseline scenario here is a situation where, for example, you have a farmer who is not using social media, and then the U1 there is actually referring to the utility function with the use of social media. And obviously, the rational farmer would really consider using a particular tool if there's any positive economic incentive to do that. So this is the theoretical framework that we used to explore the key research question of the study. In terms of the methods, we conducted this study in Domboshawa. Domboshawa is about 30 kilometers from where I am right now. So it is a peri-urban area. It's rural, but it's also peri-urban. In other words, this is an area which has an urban influence. So the likelihood that you are going to have a lot of tools being used in that particular area was actually high. So that's one of the reasons why we chose that particular site as a possible area. But also what you see in that particular area is that there's agriculture is very significant in that area. And the weather and climatic conditions, they support agriculture. So those are some of the reasons why we chose Domboshawa as a case study. And I'm just providing here the map to show you the location of Domboshawa that is here, that is in the north of Harare. So in terms of the sampling, our theoretical population or our target population, as I said, it was Domboshawa, but we had about 40,000 households. Unfortunately, when we did this study, that was like the beginning of the COVID situation. So we decided to focus on 3 wards because there are 5 wards. So we focused on 3 wards, which is it's more than 30% of the wards. And then out of those 3 wards, there were 6,000 households. And then we used that 6,000 to determine the minimum sample size. And we established that it was around 197. But eventually we settled for, I think, 219, which is bigger than the minimum. And this is how we disaggregated our sample according to those 3 wards. So we had 60 households that we interviewed in Ward 1, 146 in Ward 3, and then the other one 11 in Ward 4. And I must indicate that the reasons why we had to limit our sample, we would have wanted to engage more, but it was really the COVID-19 situation. So it was very difficult for us to go to 300 or 500 as anticipated. So we used structured questionnaires. Then the questionnaire was really touching on a number of issues. We're asking demographic data. We were asking about the social media tools that the farmers were using. We also touched at the constraints, then, the costs. It was a gamut of issues that we focused on in the questionnaire. Then we also looked at secondary data in terms of like for example, what I've just already presented to you, the global context, the sub-Saharan context, and even the Zimbabwean context. So a lot of secondary data is in our study. Then we also did some key informant interviews with extension officers, people from the Ministry of Information, and some of them we are still interviewing them. We haven't gotten the permission to do so, but we hope to engage them as we finalize our study. So in terms of those objectives that I presented, these are the tools, the analytical or statistical tools that we use. Just to look at the range, the types of tools that we wanted to use. There we use descriptive statistics, and we also used K-means cluster analysis, which really is a method of identifying underlying clusters within a sample. Then for the second objective, that was looking at the types of agricultural information, we used descriptives. And then for the motivating factors, we used the exploratory factor analysis. Although here we could also have used, regression analysis, but so far what I can report is that I'll just report the preliminary results of the exploratory factor analysis. And then for the cost and benefits, basically this one we just, we have descriptive statistics. And for the critical analysis of the policy environment, we used the structure, content, and context framework. The structure, we basically look at a policy document in terms of what it is saying. The content, we are looking at what exactly does it speak to social media, and in what context. That's basically the thrust of that particular framework. It has been commonly used in different studies. So let me go straight to the findings. Here I give a snapshot of the demographic variables. The demographics, just a description of the sample. And one of the things that you will see is that we had a lot of people that we interviewed from 1-2. So they were about 67% of the sample. Then we had 27% from 1-1. So when you look at the age distribution of the sample that we used, most of them, they are in the 31 to 40 age range, as well as, surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, above 61 as well. Typically, you have farmers like that. Then in terms of the gender distribution, it's almost the same, almost like a 50-50 basis. Then educationally, we see that a large majority of the sample, they are in the secondary level education, and most of the household heads were married as well. Now let's look at the issues at hand. Now, what are the main tools that we see farmers being aware of? Right. So from what we see here, you can clearly see that most of the respondents, they are aware of WhatsApp. I think that was the most common platform, but also they used SMS, and to a lesser extent, you see farmers using Facebook, and to a very little extent, Twitter. This is awareness. It's not like they're actually using it. This is just, are you aware of the existence of this kind of tool? So yes, we see, I think from this table, basically the message is that, the basic SMS and WhatsApp, these are the main tools that farmers seemed to be aware of. So out of these tools, we then said, which ones do you use? So again, you'll see that a large majority of the farmers, they were using WhatsApp, followed by, Google. They're also using Facebook, and YouTube was not used that much. It was almost like next to nothing. But those are the major social media tools that they were using. Now, we wanted to look at who uses what. So when you look at WhatsApp, for example, what kind of individuals within the sample are more likely to use the WhatsApp? When you look at Facebook, what kind of individuals are more likely to use Facebook? And one of the things that you will see here, for example, when you look at WhatsApp, you'll find that predominantly it is the males, the male-headed households. The male farmers, they're the ones that are using WhatsApp. But I would say, surprisingly, they are mostly about 50 years of age, and that they have a secondary level of education, and they are not trained. They're not trained in agriculture. Of course, that should be expected. But in terms of the income, they have less income. So can we say that WhatsApp is a tool for the for the low income category? I don't know. But then in terms of Facebook, you see a slight difference here, because with Facebook, once again, you see that a lot of males are using, predominantly it is used by the males, but it's a younger generation, farmers in the 36 to 49 age range. And predominantly these farmers, they're in the tertiary level education. They are trained and they have more income. So this is the trend that we saw. Unfortunately for Google and YouTube, the cluster analysis was not able to identify clear clusters for those particular tools. Now, what sort of information were farmers using, or what were they using WhatsApp for? What sort of information were they getting from WhatsApp? So predominantly, you see that most of the farmers, they definitely got production-related information. Here I'm talking about, for example, if you want to start a chicken production initiative, or goat farming, or it could be beef. It's a range of production-related information that they were using, or that they were extracting from these tools. But also, they are using these tools to extend their markets. I think this is not surprising, because of the COVID-19 situation. When you post that you have these products, it is easy for people just to navigate and and come maybe to where you are and get the product and go. So it's production, marketing related information, then also to a lesser extent, weather information, as well as disaster preparedness information. So those are some of the those are the types of information that the farmers were using. Or got from social media platforms. Now, we then go to what is it that motivates a particular person to say, I want to go for WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever tool they are using. So as I said, we used the exploratory factor analysis, and these are the results of the preliminaries actually with that tool. So the KMO was 0.77, which is greater than 0.5, meaning that our sample was adequate. And also we have the Bartlett's test for sphericity. Also, it's significant, which is indicating that this tool could be useful in terms of telling us a story in terms of what influences to choose specific tools. So let's look at the results. We have quite a number of dimensions that seem to be emerging as far as choice is concerned. I think the most important one is when you look at the tool, the attributes of the tool itself. So this one, it really accounted for much of the variation in the choice. It actually accounted for about 19% of the total variance. So we're saying, what are the key attributes of that particular tool? But also, there are some issues to do with the person, the individual. I may not have defined it very well here, but we're talking about the individual in terms of your education, your age, the individual themselves. This one accounted for about 13%. Then you also have institutional factors, which accounted for about 8.6%. Then you have social factors, that is in networking. Sometimes you can know, WhatsApp through networking from others. Then you have economic factors. Do you have an income? That's very key. And then also you have the ICT skills of the individual as well. Do you have the skills to be able to navigate to Facebook or whatever it is that you're using? Then who owns the appliance, or who owns the phone, whether it is a laptop or whatever it is, but who owns it? If it is the individual who is owning it, there's a higher chance that that person is likely also to use those tools. Then also there's the issue of the costs involved. I think this is pretty intuitive, because obviously when it is costly, then the individual is less likely to engage or to use a particular social media tool. So these are some of the results, the preliminary results that we have. So as I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there are 8 factors that seem to explain why people go for certain tools over others. Now, briefly, let's look at the policy environments, that characterizes the ICT in general. And one of the things that we have already seen is that when you look at the national ICT policy, it is very much in line with the Vision 2030. The policy is actually very much in line. In fact, what I did as I was analyzing the national ICT policy, I just looked for the word rural in that document, and I found that the word rural is mentioned 9 times in the national ICT policy. And the things that they talk about in that national ICT policy have to do with the low digital literacy. They talk about the need to train. They talk about the need to establish connectivity. They also talk about the need to engage in advocacy. So those are the issues that we see at that policy level. But in terms of the acts, we have so many acts that or statutes that affect the use of social media, and I think those are the 5 key ones. But I think what I would want to say for those ones is that you cannot just do whatever you want. You cannot just write whatever you want on social media. Those acts, they might work against you. So in a nutshell, we would say, yes, the policy environment is there, but perhaps there is need for more. We need to have a specific statutory instrument, perhaps that recognizes the power of social media, especially for the rural folk. So that's what I can say. So in conclusion, from this brief discussion, I would say we see that farmers are mostly aware of WhatsApp. They are aware of Facebook. They are using SMS, but the ones that they're actually mostly using, it's WhatsApp and Facebook. Specifically for agriculture, they are using that for production and marketing purposes. In that, when it comes to the choice of the tool, we see that there are a number of issues that have to do with the individual. There are a number of issues that have to do with the tool itself. Then also there are a number of institutional issues and also policy issues that can influence choice of the tool. And that we see that the ICT policy framework is existing, but we don't really see a specific statutory instrument that takes advantage of social media, especially for the benefit of the rural farmers. So we think that against the backdrop of this pandemic, that is the COVID-19 pandemic, if we want to have a short-term solution to information provision, I think what I would suggest is that we can build on WhatsApp, we can build on Facebook. These are tools that are already at our disposal. We can just take advantage of them. We just come up with programs that will take advantage of the fact that you have many people who are already using that. And I think that it's absolutely key that as we design our programs, we focus on women and youths, simply because when you look at the results, they are showing you that there's a large majority of the males that are having access to social media tools. So we also want to make sure that we integrate women and youths into the use of social media, specifically for the benefit of farmers. Then there's another issue that has to do with the simplicity of the tool, because if it's complicated, I don't think farmers will be able to use that. And lastly, we talk about the need for the, like I said, the statutory instrument that is focusing on social media. So in a nutshell, that's my presentation. But I want to end by acknowledging ARC. I also want to acknowledge PARI. And I also want to acknowledge our department, and I also want to specifically thank all of you for listening, and thank you so much. Let me. This is some kind of a statement that was made by Mr. Brunori. He was saying digitalization is a means to an end and not an end in itself. So meaning to say that social media, in as much as we talk about it, it's not an end, but let's use it for the benefit of farmers so that we get the outputs that we are looking for. So thank you very much. That's my presentation.
Thank you very much, Edward, for a very interesting presentation. As we said before this presentation, there is quite a number of people at ZEF working on digitalization. So I'm sure that was very informative for them as well. We can open a discussion now. So you can either raise your hand or write your question in the chat, and then I will read it out. Maybe before other participants start asking questions, I would open a discussion with a couple of questions from my side. So first of all, your analysis looked at social media as tools, but I think it would be also good to maybe know, I don't know if you have this kind of information, but to have a discussion on who provides the information, right? Because the social media is only either a software or a tool, however you call it. But then the quality of information, or who is accountable, let's say, for the information flow. I think that would be interesting to present as well. I mean, I was wondering if you talk about the use of social media, do you know whether this is, I don't know, information flowing between some kind of formal groups, extension agents maybe, and farmers, or informal groups, or just informal discussions between individuals, right? So this can affect the quality of information and the usefulness of information as well. So I think that would be interesting for us to know.
Can I respond now?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So yes, that. Thank you for that question, and also thank you for the concern. We do have that question in the questionnaire. It actually asked about the sources of information. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I didn't present it. I thought that no, it's an issue for the main report. But yes, there are about 3 or 4 sources of information when it comes to agricultural information. When it comes to marketing, what farmers are doing, it's mostly farmer to farmer. Mm-hmm. When it's about marketing. And then when it comes to the production information, it is mostly from the ministry. There's the Ministry of Agriculture. They have a platform they've actually created which is using WhatsApp. But also we have a number of non-governmental organizations that are also using this. In fact, when you go to, in the main report, I indicate the various areas or the various sources of information. Is there in the report. But as far as the quality of the information is concerned, there could be question marks, especially when you consider the fact that, for example, I can just wake up one day and say, I'm an expert in goat production, but who knows your background? So the issue of the quality can really be something that we can debate. But I would say it's a range of individuals that are provide information. In fact, information on social media is coming from everywhere.
Okay.
It's coming from everywhere. Yeah.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
my next question referred to your both like theoretical model and then the empirical part, because you said that the theoretical background relies on the random utility model, which
Yes.
basically is mostly interested in the attributes of different choices.
Yes.
And then potentially also accounting for individual heterogeneity. In your presentation, you just broadly presented results for social media tools attributes. Can you tell us what are these attributes? Because I think this is probably the most interesting part also, to know, what kind of attributes you took into account and how you decided on specific choices. And the very last question from me, I don't want to take over the whole discussion. We also talked about this a little bit before your presentation, that the context of Zimbabwe is probably quite specific because of the macroeconomic issues, maybe also the history of the country and the land reform and whatever.
Yes.
Do you think that the results you get in your study are nevertheless applicable or representative to broader, let's say, perspective, regional perspective, maybe Southern Africa or even Africa or even abroad?
All right. Okay. So let me start with the theoretical model. The attributes that we looked at, they are about 15 or so, but these are coming from what is the, let me just give you some of there's the cost, there's the reliability, there's, it's a range of, that is coming from the diffusion of innovation model. Mm-hmm. So it's more like it's integrated. So what we did here is I went to literature, right? And then I looked at the attributes which are likely to be key as far as choice is concerned. Mm-hmm. And then I integrated those, and then I created some kind of Likert scale. It's a 5-point Likert scale, where we then looked at the extent to which those particular issues were key for the farmers. But offhand, I can just tell you that there's the cost, there's the reliability, there's the complexity, there's the So I hope you get what. So there are so many that I picked up from literature, and so essentially what we are saying here is to say, how best does literature explain our situation as far as the attributes are concerned? So that's how I looked at those attributes that we are talking about. Yeah. Then about the whether the results from Zimbabwe could be extrapolated to the rest of Africa, it's really difficult to say because, like you rightly pointed out, the situation is a little bit unique, because especially when you look at it from the viewpoint of the macroeconomy, because if things are expensive, like especially the cost of the bundles is expensive, it makes it very difficult. It actually forces, it's a constrained choice issue, because you don't have the money, but you're also being forced to choose certain tools because the environment is making it a little bit more difficult. But so what I want to say is that it is, it might be difficult to extrapolate these results to other African countries, or even in Southern Africa. Yeah, so I would say these are case-specific results, simply because of our unique context.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have also questions from Heike and Oliver, so let's start with Heike.
Okay.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much for your presentation. This is a very under-researched field, so very exciting. Yeah. I have a couple of questions. So one is methodological. I was wondering if you had considered actually using social media to do your research, because especially in Corona times, if you approach people through Facebook or WhatsApp groups or whatever, to sort of course, then you don't get the people who don't use social media, but you could dig more deeply into the ones that do use social media. So I was just wondering if you'd consider that, and if you think that would in fact be practical. And the other question is, you've presented from the farmer's perspective, which I think is really interesting. I was wondering if you also have a sense from the provider's perspective or the service provider's perspective, to what extent are they taking advantage of social media in service provision to provide information or as part of marketing? So be it government, NGOs, or even private sector companies, to what extent, because social media is driving internet use and broadband use in many African countries. So is this something that's arrived at the level of service providers as well, that they take advantage of that? Or is it still primarily an informal, as what Janetta was saying, an informal way of exchanging information? Is it part of a business model nowadays?
Okay. So, thank you very much for those very insightful questions. But let me start with the one that you asked about the, yes, we did present the farmer's perspective, but like I said, the problem that we actually faced was, when the COVID-19 pandemic, took place, a lot of the things that we had planned to do, we failed to do that. We had actually planned for physical visits to the different stakeholders. But what I can assure you is that this study is not yet finished. We are in the process of engaging, for example, like I told you, there's the Minister of Agriculture, there's the Minister of Information, then we have a number of NGOs, we also have the private sector. It's still something that we are actually doing just as we finalize the study. And I must take that idea, we have it on board, but we haven't finished. That's why I was reluctant to say, can I present the perspective of the service providers when I don't have much to say on that? So, but yes, it is a good point. But on the first point that you highlighted, so could we have gone on Facebook, for example, to look at what is happening on the Facebook? We didn't think about that. But we basically used a traditional way of research. We wanted to be in the community, and when COVID came, actually, that methodology that you've actually suggested could have been the best way of doing things. So perhaps yes, it is something that we can think of in the future. But like I said, we used the traditional way of doing research, wanting to talk to people physically, wanting to do focus group discussions. That's basically what we were doing in the study. Thank you. Hey.
Thank you very much, Oliver, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Edward, for the very, very good presentation that you made. And some questions I had have already been asked, so I'll go straight to, I think, two more questions that are related to what have been asked already. Yes. And it's really on the reliability of the information, because I think social media being sort of unregulated in terms of the information flow, yes. How dependable is the information that a farmer would use for extension or for production purposes? And that was also related to really who provides that information. Why would farmers in your motivation, you talk about the breakdown of extension systems, and therefore perhaps social media becomes an alternative. Yes. But then are companies providing, say, this information that you talked about, really proper companies with proper information that farmers can rely on, Like, for example, if the extension agent will not arrive or will not be there, would farmers be willing, and would the information they are getting from the extension and the social media be really an alternative extension service or trial and error information? Yeah. And my second question is really on your results. You presented the awareness, the usage, and then these key socioeconomic attributes, which I didn't quite understand. Those numbers, okay. There was 1, 0, and 3, and I didn't quite understand those ones. But also in the determinants of choice of the social media tool, you had some variables there that just you put them in, like D7, A2, okay. B1. So what are these? I mean, they're important to be, it's good to be able for us also to be able to see and argue those and see whether they make sense in that sense. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, Oliver, thank you very much for those questions. I think you are very right. Let me start with the third one, where you are asking about the issue of the determinants. I think we would have wanted, I think that was an oversight on our part, to say we just put the A1 as in like the question in the questionnaire. But I think you rightly pointed out that perhaps we could have included the actual question to say, does as we are defining our factors, what variables are being included there? So yes, that we will do. We've done that in the main reports, but in the presentation, we didn't do that. We acknowledge that we could have done that. Now, as far as the awareness of the tools, the question was very simple. It was a very direct question to say, what social media tools are you aware of? It was a yes/no question, a dichotomous response question that we posed to the farmers. So the percentages that you saw, there's a frequency, which is the actual number, but then there's a percentage, which is the proportion of the farmers who are indicating that they are aware of. For example, where I said 68% of maybe I have to go back. Can I go back to that plot? Yeah. Let me try to go back. All right. Let's for example here. So we are here. What we have here on this particular table. If you go to WhatsApp, for example, you will see that 149 of the 219 farmers. Can you see
just to, I mean, this was clear. I mean,
yeah.
Could you go two slides ahead? So next one.
Two slides ahead.
The next one now.
The next one.
Yeah. So these numbers here, I couldn't understand what you meant by
okay.
one, and then three, two there. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. But basically, what we are doing here, this is a K-means cluster analysis. So what K-means cluster analysis does, it goes to your sample, right? And then it identifies clusters. And a cluster here these are a group of similar individuals, right? So when you, for example, if you are under the WhatsApp, right? These are the attributes of the cluster that is using WhatsApp. It is the attributes of the cluster that is using WhatsApp. So when I say one there, for example, one, it is saying a large majority within this cluster, they are male.
Okay,
yes.
All right. Then that's,
yes.
Now that is clearer now. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought it was proportions of, how many
sorry about that, but that's basically what we are saying. So it's basically trying to characterize the kind of individuals who are using a particular platform.
Okay.
Yes. Then you asked about the reliability of the information. Oliver, the reliability of the information definitely is questionable, especially when it is coming from people who are just, like I said, waking up from Norway and then setting up a WhatsApp group, for example, or just going on Facebook and then informing. If the reliability definitely is questionable. And in my view, I wouldn't really support that idea that you just get information from anywhere. So what the government of Zimbabwe has actually been doing, what they've done is they've given they've actually created, they are using WhatsApp actually, but what they do with the WhatsApp is that they will identify somebody who is going to be like the one who creates the WhatsApp group, and it is that individual who provides a platform for information exchange, and that person is actually a reliable source of information. We know who that person is. If it's an extension officer, it has to be an extension officer. If it's a research officer, it has to be a research officer. So basically, that's, for me, that is what I would think would be the way to do it. But, the issue of saying, I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in that, I can do this, I think then it creates a lot of issues as far as reliability of the information is concerned. So I agree with you. The vastness of social media really creates issues. It really creates issues as far as, even the governance. How do you govern it? Very difficult to govern, very difficult, which actually points to what I was suggesting. What we actually need is a statutory instrument. I saw there's a question on the chat. There's somebody who is asking about a statutory instrument. So let me try to explain what I mean here. So we actually have what is called the Postal and Telecommunications Act of 2015, right? This one is a piece of legislation that was passed by the Parliament of Zimbabwe. What it does, it provides the legislative framework which governs specific issues about the use of ICT in general. It is the use of ICT in general. But when you look at this particular act, it's not clear in terms of social media. It doesn't say anything, it's very quiet. And when you go to the other tools here, they're also very quiet. They actually they never say anything about social media. And that explains why we have a Hobbesian jungle as far as the social media is concerned. So I was saying we need a statutory instrument simply because it is that instrument, it has to be passed through the parliament. It must be clear and it must provide the regulatory framework specifically for the use of ICT in agriculture. That's what we are saying. So to answer you, a statutory instrument basically is it is an addendum or an addition to a statute, or it is an addendum to an act. It's like you are improving an act. You improve it. So you improve it through a statutory instrument, and that is done by the parliament. So yeah, I think that's I think those are the issues. Oliver, did I answer everything?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Oliver.
Okay, thank you, Oliver. Thank you, Edward. So we have still a few questions in the chat. So Edward already answered Alisher's question, but there is still a question from Fuad. So let me read it out. Thanks for your nice presentation. What types of exploratory factor analysis do you use? Is there any scope to implement some to see the impact of each component? So that's two questions from Fuad.
Okay, let me also, I didn't quite capture those questions. Maybe the first one is talking about?
What types of exploratory factor analysis do you use?
Okay, so that question is not clear. Because, you know, maybe what I want to explain is that we had a theory, right? The theory that is the random utility model. Then we looked at literature. We identified several attributes that affect choice. And then, so you have many dimensions or many variables that can potentially explain a person's choice of a tool, right? And why we used exploratory factor analysis is simply because it is a data reduction technique. So because what we wanted to do was to reduce the numerous variables that we identified in literature to manageable factors, which precisely is what we did. Because we had, I think, about 20 variables, but then we identified about 8 factors. So in a nutshell, what we are trying to do here is just to understand choice in a better way. So exploratory factor analysis therefore helped us to reduce the number of variables into factors. It's like packaging. You are packaging variables into factors. That's yeah. So that I hope that
I think so. It's yes. It's very clear.
And the other question?
Is there any scope to implement some to see the impact of each component?
Is there a scope to implement those dimensions?
Yeah, I mean to implement some.
Yes, there actually is. We actually working on a concept note that will see the implementation of an e-extension application. But the e-extension application is going to be using, is going to ride on the wave of either WhatsApp or Facebook. That is the e-assistant. But you know, at this stage, this is just an idea that we want to do. Whether it is going to be successful, that's something else. But yes, definitely we are working on that.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. So let us know in the future how it will be going. Okay. And the last, I think there was one more question from Dorothy. So thank you for your presentation. how much is the total variance for the selected 8 components, and also further visual exploration and relationship between variables and components would be important. So more of a comment.
Okay, so all right. So those factors, I think they accounted for more than 80% of the total variance. I think you can simply add. You can simply add from. But it was more than 80%. The visual exploration. You mean the script plot? The script plot, I didn't include it. I could have included that script plot, but the reason why we stuck to 8 is because the script plot, which is the visualization, it clearly shows you that there's a huge 10 when you are on 8. In fact, when you're on variable number 9, that's where you have the huge 10. So the script plot is actually there in the main report. We have that. But thank you for those observations. But yes.
Thank you. I think there was an addition from Fuad. What he meant with the last question was actually a suggestion to use a sequential equation model, but maybe that's something you can discuss together afterwards, because we are now running out of time. So I suggest we can stop here, but as I said, if you have any more questions or maybe suggestions for Edward, you can get in touch directly with him. So Edward, once again, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation, very insightful for us, and as Heike said, still under-researched area. Thank you everyone for your presentation, and see you next week.
Okay, thank you very much, Anita. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.